Welcome back to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin. Today I have on the incredible, amazing, good friend. Hi, that's my girlfriend. Isn't she pretty? I got a new camera, so she can't hide like she used to from the old. The incredible, the wonderful, good friend of mine. I've known him for a little more than a year now. This is actually, I think, the third time he's been on the show. He's very insightful. He really gets into things. He has always a great point of view. He's a wonderful orator. He's great at discussions. Buddy Neil Ballas is on today, guys. You're going to enjoy Neil, and we're going to get into the transition from this reality into one that we're going into. And I'm sure he has something that's always up his sleeve that's going to throw me off. But I love that. That's the reason why he's here. So if you guys want some merch, you can go ahead and find merch over here. You can find the link below. You can get yourself a t-shirt, a hat, a mug. All my social media all my social media is in the bottom. If you'd like the channel, please like and subscribe to it. That's enough for all that. Please, a big warm welcome for my buddy Neil Ballas.
Hey, how's it going, Tom?
It's going, man. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, excited about discussion tonight. I'm sure we both have some interesting points on this.
Oh yeah, I think you more than me normally, but it's all good. So you're coming at us from the cold state of Florida.
Yeah, it's freezing
that
here.
I reached a high of 38 degrees today. That's crazy, dude. Yeah,
yeah.
That's highly unusual. I was just watching like a video about like the snowstorm that hit New Orleans, and you can see that Bourbon Street was completely empty. Because people in the South don't know how to drive in this stuff.
Yeah, so
it's a pretty crazy time.
Yeah, I've got some friends up in Pensacola that are just running around in the snow and taking their Jeeps out and having fun. And they're like, "Oh, this is more fun than the beach." Mm-hmm. But
sledding on the hills that are like maybe 2 degrees.
Right.
Yeah, dude, tell just reminded everybody just a little bit about yourself, like, why you're interested in, like, what got you to, this where you like to come on shows like mine and discuss these topics.
Yeah, I've always been I don't know if you'd say a follower or believer in paranormal stuff, and it's always kind of followed me. No matter where I've gone in my life, I'm always seeing weird things in the sky. I've had paranormal experiences with what what they are, I don't know. Just like weird things in a house where all the cabinets just open up in a kitchen. Like that was a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
used to work at a church and heard little girls running around that weren't there. Um, I've seen a number of UFOs in my life. I go out and look all the time. I'm always looking in the stars. Um, and I've always been an avid lucid dreamer, and I've done that since I was a little kid, and had some really strange experiences in lucid dreams that um, I don't know, just weird encountered people in my some of my lucid dreams that I can't say we're subconscious manifestations, where most of the
Right.
time I can interact with them and I can tell that they're part of my subconscious. I know what they're going to say. I can just snap of a finger and make them blip away. And yet I've had encounters with some beings that I couldn't do that with. I had ones that took control of my body and made me go face down, like on my knees and face down into the ground, and started telling me things, and I couldn't do anything, and I knew I was dreaming. um,
Right.
so
You told me
just
about that. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember
it's
that one. I got
just
my
some
first, I
strange
think,
stuff.
what is this? I got my first Twitch. Wow, this is my first Twitch. Cool. Hello, welcome to the show, Twitch. I finally got my first person watching on Twitch. This is wild. It took a while. It only took like 3 months, but whatever. Cool, fair enough.
Nice.
Yeah, you. I remember you telling me that you were practicing. I think you were telling me you were practicing breathing underwater,
That's correct. Yeah, I
right?
was trying to breathe
And then
underwater, and then I knew it
then
was working.
then something. Yeah, and then it pulled you out, or you came out of the pool and something like held you down because you were doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, or something
I
like that.
I guess I think it evolved from there, because sometimes in my lucid dreams I'd see crafts flying around in the sky, and I would like jokingly like try to zap them down or do something ridiculous. And
With your hand, right? Like
um,
Iron Man?
oh yeah, no, I practice like controlling energy, and I use it to like I can like lift up the earth,
Holy shit. So
create
you're
create
like
walls.
superpowers.
I mean, it
Superpowers in your
is.
dreams, dude. That's
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it since I was a little kid, so I go from that stem from that childish imagination of just, this is my dream. I can do whatever I want. And also watching, like shows like the Avatar, Last Airbender, and seeing things like that where they can adjust the earth and move things around. That's really fun to do in dreams. So, yeah, I'll do stuff like that, shoot electricity, make fire, make things blow up, create wind, um, all that. Just
wow.
anything I can imagine. And I think I went a little too far with it or something, and something wasn't happy, and yeah, it pulled me up out of
Uh-huh.
the water, put me face down on my knees, and started telling me that I needed to respect these lucid dreams and all this. And I was like, okay, sorry, and not to interact with them.
That is
And
so fascinating.
of course I did. A few months later, I saw a craft, and I was like, "Bzz," and it popped me back, and I got reverse shocked, and I woke up with like pain in my chest, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again. Um, so
This has been a while ago. This has been at least a year ago, if not longer. Have you been doing it since I've known you? Do you still practice lucid dreaming?
oh yeah, yeah. It's been it varies. Sometimes I'll have sprees where I don't try to lucid dream. I just am going to sleep, and I'll have like once a week or so. I'll have a series of lucid dreams, and usually when if I have one in one night, I'll continue to have others. Because I
Okay.
practice there's a few different methods, like wake induced lucid dream, where you're awake and you like my method is I imagine like a tree and like an outside scape, and I imagine that tree getting more and more detailed, and then once it gets highly detailed, I will myself towards it. Like I don't try to walk, I don't try to move, I just imagine myself moving towards that tree. And when that starts to happen, it's almost like I'm stepping into a painting and my world starts to build around me. And I'll be completely awake. And as I head into that towards that tree, I
Whoa.
actually head into the dream and my body falls asleep. And so that's wake induced lucid dream wild method.
That's like
Um,
ultimate ultimate like meditation or something. I mean, I've been able to meditate where I stare at
mhm.
a tree or even like a bush or just a certain piece of scenery, and it kind of I don't will myself towards it. I kind of draws me into it, and I can kind of get
Okay. Yeah.
lost in the moment in that area of thought, being one with everything in nature, but not where I just start creating my own reality. You're like a how long you how long you been doing this?
Since I was a little kid. As a
Oh,
little
okay,
kid, it
all
would
right.
just happen, and it happened so much as a kid that I enjoyed my dream life more than I enjoyed my real life because I could do anything I wanted. Um, and
Oh,
I started to learn that if if I was having one of these lucid dreams, sometimes I get too excited about something and it'll wake me up and I actually get this like fade to black in my dream where I'll see everything and I'll be like, no, 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 no. And I'll feel myself waking up, but I stay completely still. And if I stay completely still, I don't open my eyes, I don't move my body, then in about like 5 to 10 seconds, my body will go back asleep and I'll fade right back into another dream. And I'll still be conscious because I'll be thinking in my head, I'm awake, just stay awake. But my body falls back to sleep. And it's pretty interesting. And so usually if I have
like,
one,
are you a
what's that?
deep sleeper? Like if I are you a deep sleeper? Because if I go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I can't go back to sleep most of the time. Like, do you have you always been a deep sleeper, or do you have any like thoughts in your head? Do you like I have to fill up the car tomorrow or some shit like this?
Oh, I see. Actually, I had I've always been a very light sleeper, but I think what it's called is an overactive prefrontal cortex, and
Oh
that's
wow.
typical in people who have like ADHD, and and it also helps with lucid dreaming because I don't need REM sleep to dream vividly. I'll fall like I can start dreaming the instant I fall asleep.
Do
I
you have a
used to have
what's your blood type, by the way, Neil? What's your blood type? This has been an interesting one.
O negative. The
Oh,
or
there it
I
is
believe
again,
it's
guys. There it is again, guys. I'm O positive, so together we are synergy. But at the same time, this this RH negative thing has been something that's been interesting me because a lot of people with this. There it is. See, Pam, bingo, boom. We had a whole subject about it. Do you have French? Do you have French in your bloodline,
up. Yeah, I believe so. I have
or
like some
Basque, or something like that,
English.
or
Yeah, English,
Iberian
French, and
Peninsula?
Greek. English, French, and Greek
There
are
it
like my
is.
mains.
So you've heard about this, right? With
Yeah.
the negative blood, that there's a propensity for like paranormal and seeing cryptids and all that. You've heard of this, right?
Yes, I have, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what it means. What kind of evolutionary process would make you want to see Bigfoot? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, or something in our vision that makes it more. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, maybe it's the what was it? The white and gold, black and blue dress thing. How it's we all saw
Yes,
the same thing, but we all saw the different colors. Um, and maybe it's something along those lines that just our perception is slightly different. You know,
that's
I, I'd
great.
actually,
That's
I'd
interesting.
actually, I'd be curious to see what if there was a correlation between blood types and whether or not somebody saw um, black and blue or white and gold. That would that would be kind of interesting.
Wow. Wow. Okay, Pam, get on that. My wonderful moderator, Pam. She's she's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a whole discussion about that. I never thought about the blue and gold dress. I remember that for me it was blue and black.
That was white and
Yeah,
gold
I
for me.
remember that. Yeah, see, we are the
Yeah.
synergy. I was telling you.
Yeah, and But I don't know. Yeah, as a kid, I lucid dreamed all the time, and then I started to learn how to do little reality checks when I got a little bit older. And one of the reality checks I would do is I just count my fingers, and I just quickly look at them during the day. I just flash them up in front of my face, and I'd see 10 fingers. I'm in reality, and I would do that like every half hour or so. Every half hour, I just look at my hands just throughout the day, and I would do that constantly through the day. And
Wow.
then what would happen is in a dream, I would naturally just look at my hands and I'd count my fingers. But in a dream, your hands are insane. They are like I've had to where it looked like I had fingers coming out from the center of my hand. I've had like where one hand was like had fingers folding backwards, or like one hand has like an array of fingers like that. Um, Thumbs coming out of places they shouldn't. Um, it's
Wow.
weird. So in a dream, your hands are not like it's like your brain has a hard time processing what your actual hands look like. Kind of like,
That's
AI
interesting
has a
because
hard time with hands.
that's exactly what I was going to say, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was going to say. Wow. All
Uh,
right. Yeah, that's
I
weird,
think
isn't it?
I think
That's an
artists say
interesting.
too that the hands are the hardest. I think that's a common phrase among people who paint
Yeah, yeah. We get
humans.
27 bones in your hand and all the ways you can manipulate and move them and use them. I
Yeah, and
can
move them.
imagine it being very, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because
So
this
that
is
was
symmetrical.
another.
It's based makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did that a lot, and that would trigger lucid dreams all the time, because I'd look at my hands and be like, "Oh God," and then it would pop right away, like, "Oh nope, I'm dreaming. All right, I'm gonna start flying around," and I just like levitate
Have
and
you ever had to see
take off.
a Have you ever had to see a therapist about these things? Has it ever bothered you on a deeper level? Because I don't think
No,
the average person. No, all right. God damn,
yeah,
Superman. I always knew that.
I honestly think that my uh, being so exposed to lucid dreaming as a child and growing up with it, um, that it almost led me to be open to other things in this reality, that maybe
Okay.
reality isn't as cut and dry as we think it is, or as we think it should be. um, so just maybe just made me a little more open, so that when I did see things that I was like, huh, it doesn't seem right, it doesn't make me freak out, just like in a dream when you're like, oh, that's weird, there's a giant, there's a 20-foot tall mushroom over there, that's fine. It's
Have you ever had
that same idea.
a question left field? Have you ever had like strong deja vu? Because I get that
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
very strong, where it'll last for like 2 3 minutes, where I'm
Yeah,
just sitting there
I've
going,
or when you call something that's about to happen, be like, something's gonna move over
I've
here,
done
and
that.
then something happens.
Ooh, precognitive stuff, dude. All right,
Yeah, while having a
so
deja vu.
that's wild. So let's get
Yeah.
into what we wanted to discuss today. You always have an interesting point of view. You always are well read, well versed. You know your stuff. You just have a propensity for these type of subjects. And I always once in a while contact you and I go, hey man, like to have you on. What would you like to talk about? You go, let's talk about this. And you couldn't come on. There was something in the family, no big deal. And
Yep.
then and I was like, okay, what about this date? You were like, that should be a good one. I was like, okay, I always make sure Neil, because I think, like I always tell you, you should have a pod. Eventually, maybe you'll take me up on it. And yeah,
Maybe one day.
let's just jump in. There we go. That's the first time I heard a maybe. Oh, the power of tongue.
Yeah, I guess we can go into what when the last time I was on, we kind of discussed it a little bit, about the lucid dream that I had where it started out, I was in a almost like a conference center, like in this building, and there were a bunch of people there, and I was talking on stage about something, doing some kind of public speaking. And I realized I was dreaming. I don't remember what happened. I don't know if it was one of the look down at my hands, or if it was just whoosh, just pop lucid. But I remember telling the crowd too. I was like, well, I don't have to do this anymore, because uh, I had recently been working at like I was doing public speaking,
Bye.
as my day job, and so I was like, you know what, I don't have to do that right now, because this is a dream. I can do whatever I want. And I went to go walk down a hallway, and I saw a window at the end of the hallway. And as I was heading to that window to go fly, I was just going to jump out of it and just whoosh, take off. One of my friends, his dad had passed a
Yeah.
few months prior, and he's still is one of my best friends. And his dad was like a father to me growing up. We were in like Boy Scouts together, and he always treated me like a son. I was always hanging out at his house, so really, really good man. Um, Good old Southern Georgia boy. And so I saw my friend and he was crying, and he encountered me in the hallway, and I was like, I don't want to deal with it. It was too soon. Um, I was like, I want to have fun in the stream. I don't want to encounter, you know, trauma like or grief. So I did my blip, and I blipped him away, and he did. He disappeared, and I was like, okay, whew, easy. And so then I go walk to the window again, and before I got to the window, my friend's dad stepped in front of me, and he stopped me, and it hit me real emotionally. I was like, oh, this I was like, oh, my subconscious may want to deal with this trauma right now, but I don't. So I immediately went to blip him away. And I tried to blip him away, and he stopped me, and he's like, you can't do that to me here. You have no power over me here. And I was like, huh? Because that's the first time that had ever happened to me. I was so used to doing that, so used to being able to manipulate my
Wow.
dream reality. And he was the first being or first anything I'd encountered that I could not do that with. And I was like, but you're just a subconscious manifestation. He was like, no, I'm here and I have a message for you, and I need you to tell my son this message. And so he proceeded to tell me it was basically a message of love. Like, I want you to let him know I love him. He's going to be okay. I see what he's going through now. And his son was going through a rough time and actually about to leave the country to go marry this girl in
Mm,
Egypt, actually. And
mhm.
he had gone through some religious stuff as well. And his dad basically was telling me, he's like, I see what's happening. It's going to be hard for him, and I know what he's going to be going through, but it's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. And then he told me as well, he's like, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Um, and he said this what happened to me wasn't what I was expecting. And now when he said that, I don't believe he was talking about when he died, because his death was not unexpected. He had been battling cancer for about 8 to 10 years. He
Okay.
kept getting new forms of cancer, and one against some, and then finally in the end, it took him. And so he knew he was going. It wasn't a surprise. But I believe what he was talking about is after he died, what he experienced wasn't what he was expecting. But he said it was good, and that it was okay, and that everything was going to be fine. And I thought that was really
Okay.
interesting. He was pretty religious, raised Presbyterian, I believe. And he also said that where he was going to be going, he couldn't explain it to me, and even if he tried, I would never understand it. And I thought that was always really interesting too, that it's like, well, just try. Just try to
Yeah.
explain it. But he was like, no, you would never understand it, so I'm not even going to try to explain it to you. But where I'm going, I won't be able to communicate with you anymore, so I'm trying to get this last message out to my son.
Wow.
and and then at the end of it, it was very very much his personality. He was like, now go on, boy, go enjoy your dream. And he just sent me on, and I did. I jumped out of the window, and I just took off flying. And it was it was very interesting. Like the next morning, I woke up and I wanted to call him and tell him, but I was like, no, no, it was just a dream, just a dream. And I wrote it off as a dream for a few weeks until he came. He came to my house, and he was going to be leaving to Egypt. This was going to be the last time I was going to see my friend, uh, un, for now. And so we had had a few drinks, and I was like, you know what? uh Whatever, I'm going to tell him. So I told him about what had happened, or I started to. I was like, your dad came to me in a dream, and he had a message for you, and he was like, I don't need to hear it, I've heard it before. It's like, oh, did he say everything was going to be fine? everything was going to be okay, and that he wasn't going to be able to contact you anymore, and that he was going somewhere else, and he won't tell us where or what he's doing. He's like, yeah, no, I know, I've heard it already. And it freaked me out because
Yeah,
it was that, like, that confirmation that this was real. This was not my uh subconscious trying to help me deal with trauma, which is kind of
right.
what
But
I had written it
he
off
also
as.
said it in the dream that it wasn't your subconscious, but it was like an affirmation.
Yeah, yeah. And then I heard from, or what he had heard, my friend, both, it was his, I believe his mom, his sister, and his grandmother all had been visited by his dad in dreams. I don't know if their dreams were lucid or what the case was around those, but they all had the same general message. Um, Later, years later, like just in the last year, I talked with his mom about this, and just out of curiosity, what she experienced. And she was like, "Oh, Terry came to me, and he told me he wanted me to tell Chase stuff." And um, his message to her was also interesting. He said that he loved her, but he didn't love her the same way that he did when he was alive. He said he loved her in a way that was all encompassingly, and that was like pure, and that it wasn't a sexual love, it wasn't a human love, it was completely unconditional and encompassed every bit of her being and knowing everything about her. And I thought that was really both
Wow. I
beautiful
was
and interesting.
so that was absolutely. So you're saying it was more or less five people at the same, more or less in the same time period, got the same message. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was all within about a month, and there may have been more too, but
Okay.
that's
I'm
just the
sorry,
ones that I
someone's
know.
hammering. Someone hammering downstairs. I was re-listening to one of my podcasts with Lisa Monette, I think her name was, and she was saying 'cause she's a death doula. She's like a midwife for passing over, and she was
Okay.
saying that the people on that side have told her that they can talk to six people at a time, or they can be in six places at one time. And
Oh wow.
it was just when you said that, it kind of, yeah, she's very interesting in her and the things that she's seen, and she's always had that. She's also like like a licensed nurse, and also is a practitioner in this particular area where the people say, I'm talking to, like when they're old and they're senile and they're on their way out, they start like
Yeah.
talking to people that are not there. And she's saying, no, that's when we open up and start to
Yeah.
talk to the others that are there. Like our consciousness opens up. And it's just for me a very interesting topic. It's just a very interesting topic. Please, Neil, I interrupted you.
Yeah. Oh no, no, you're good. Yeah, that is really interesting. And I really wish that I knew exactly what day it was, because a lot of this stuff I'll make note of the date, or write it down somewhere so that I can know when, like, something crazy happened. But I didn't for that, and I think it was just because I thought it was just a normal dream. Because it would have been interesting to find out from, like, his mom or sister or his grandmother, like, find out when it was that he came to them as well. Because it could have been that it was all the same time. Could have been right around same night, even. You know, because I know that
You should write a
when
book
I
about
talked to.
all this. I'm serious. I'm not trying to be funny. I
I
know you
probably
think I
could.
am normally, me and you have a great rapport, and I always make you laugh and you crack me up. But I think that you have something legitimate to say there, and you're just in your experiences alone. Of course, always change the names and all that. But I think there's something to be said there. I think it could help a lot of people. I mean, you can reach a wider audience with this interesting message from the other side. I think it's
Yeah.
unique and extremely like comforting. It's very very cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, it changed my whole perspective, on whether or not we exist after death. Because I was raised very religious, raised in a Baptist home, and it was like, oh, you live once, you die once, you go to heaven, you go to hell, one or the other, no
Oof.
other,
Okay.
no if, ands, or buts about it. And, like, experiencing that, it was like, well, what if what
Yeah.
if what if heaven isn't what we think it is? What if hell isn't what we think it is, and what if it's not? Because the Bible isn't honestly very clear about that. Like people have decided to make up their
Mm,
minds about what it is, but that's based on how you want to interpret how these scriptures are. So to me, I don't know. I think there's more to it, or I think that our religious texts have a guideline. They may, or maybe
right.
have a rough outline of what happens, but I definitely think there's more to it. Um, and the part about how
Yeah, it's like a. I think it's kind of like it's kind of like trying to describe. My take on it. It's kind of like trying to describe a psychedelic trip in a way, but at the same
yeah.
time, for me personally, putting in like some type of human like what's the word I'm looking for, like structure of like there's of hierarchy and things of that nature like mixed together, like old human like barbaric thought mixed with like
Mhm.
this like almost like it's like something. I think something really happened. I don't know what, but I do know for whatever reason, I'm not religious. For whatever reason, that name, Joshua, Jesus, that name holds a lot of sway and power when it comes to when, whether you believe in demonic possession or not. That's that's your prerogative. But
Yeah, yeah.
I do know, even personally, even if I've had to use it one time. I just like, okay, this is freaking me out. I got to use it. I got to use it. Okay, and it works. It's weird. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Don't try to pin me down, guys, but it's weird. It's something to it.
Yeah, I think there is, and I think that part of that too also might be that there's something within us that is connected that has more power than what we think it does. I think that our souls or our whatever our being. Um, I think that we have more power than what we really know, and then I think that our intentions go farther than we really think they do. There's that phrase, good intentions go as far as you can throw them, and I don't agree with that. I think that our intentions can go much further than that in both controlling our reality
Yes.
and maybe one that we can't see. um and that too. um I think consent is very powerful, and I think being able to use like a name like Yahweh or Jesus, and using them to remove consent from whatever's bothering you. I think that does have a lot of sway, um, and maybe that
Very
sway
interesting
is
point.
from the name, maybe it's from a being, or maybe it's from our own power. Um, like
Yeah, I was
when
thinking
I
about
had
like I'm sorry, we'll get there, buddy. There's a little lag, guys, like always. But
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I was thinking about like when you think about what you see, what's going on in the world today, and you see a lot of this, like a lot of these awful things that are happening, that have happened, that are like assassination attempts or whatever word you want to line up, whatever that you see, it is like, okay, there's a reason why I'm watching the Eye of Jupiter. Um, for some reason, intention, you have to like let the vampire in for them to do what they want to do. So to do it in
yeah,
reverse is also just a very interesting take. You have to let them do it.
yeah,
You have to be like, it's okay to accept it. Like once you accept one thing, then they build upon it, and the next thing it's not just let's take the worst case scenario. Take AIDS. It's not just the gay people who get it. Now you accept that, and then now it's everybody, and it's like,
yeah,
and it's. I'm not saying either or. I'm not saying it's fake or not. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not a doctor, nor do I know anything about it. But what I'm saying, it's that buildup that they use is similar in a lot of things that they do. Who are they? It's probably deeper and darker than we ever know. If you know their name, it's probably not
yeah.
them.
Yeah, exactly. And
Got a little conspiratorial on you. Sorry about that.
no, and I agree too that I think names do have power of control. And I think that is part of it too, that there's something about giving a name. There's something about um giving consent to a name. Same thing in like a lot of tales of demonic possession. When you know the name of demon or entity that's possessing somebody, you have control over them to cast them out, rebuke them, whatever you want to call it, and
Wow.
that is really interesting too. Um,
That must
but
be the one
one
tenth.
thing,
Sorry, a little joke. That must be the 1/10 of the law. Possession is 9/10 of the law, but knowing the name is the other tenth.
yeah, there it is. But when I was having experiences when I had basically meditated and asked to be like abducted, I was like, oh yeah, come take me, let's go. Um,
Oh,
and I started having those experiences. Um, they were happening in my dreams, so it was one of those things where I was like, well, maybe it's just a subconscious manifestation. But then a certain point happened where I was like, I don't want this anymore. And I remember removing my consent and saying, no, no more, not tonight. And it stopped happening after that point. So it wasn't something that was out of my control. It was something that I still did have control, um, by removing consent. And I think that that's something that's interesting too, that we do have that power to remove consent. Um, we just have to. I think part of it is you have to believe it.
mm,
And another thing
yes.
too that,
You have to believe in your own autonomy.
yeah, and something too that I think I've discussed here before, probably because it's something that was profound to me when I learned it was the
Sure.
difference between knowing and belief. And in lucid dreams, I would know when I went early on, like when I was younger, I would know that I could fly. I'd be like, yes, I know I can fly. This is a lucid dream. But I would run, and then I would jump, and then I'd come back down, and that would happen every time. Like I couldn't stay flying, and sometimes I'd jump and fly and hang for a while, and then come down again. And it was because I believed in gravity, but I knew I could fly. Once I got to the point where I
Okay,
believed I could
Neo.
fly, no, I mean I'm serious. Once I understood the difference between knowledge and belief,
Yeah, I
um,
believe you.
once I got that point, it was like I learned that I could just boop, I could just levitate up, and once I was doing that, I could just go anywhere and I could fly in any direction. I didn't have to try to beat gravity. I didn't have to try to run fast and then jump. I didn't have to do any of that. I could just do it because I believed I could. And I think that having that belief of consent when people are being, some people feel that they've been haunted and they have like a being that's like harassing them, they feel like they have no power, that it's way more powerful than they are. I think they need to have that belief that they can stop that, that they are more powerful than what they really know they are. And so instead of being like, this is something that
Yeah.
I don't know about, now it can be, I believe that I'm more powerful than it. um,
Which is like
and
a
just
David
something
Icke
that
thing where he talks about living in the five senses, where he like they want the
yes,
the media and the governments and everyone, they want to keep you within the five senses. And we very well know that we are much more powerful in that. I mean, you can take it all the way back to the schooling system that the Rothschilds set in place. Any of those things are meant to like keep you in a box. Even language itself kind of puts you in a
yeah,
box. It really does. Like the word tree, like my buddy Curtis says, we name it that, but it doesn't know that. It's its own entity. It's its own thing. It's just out there
yeah,
doing its thing. We gave it a name, but it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? We are in whatever this is, whatever this reality is, 3D, whatever the hell this is much more interesting than
this
they want us to
zoo,
believe
this
or
prison.
think. This, yeah, but it's not, dude. It's not. I feel much more
But
liberated.
that's
Like
a,
talking to people like you liberates me.
yeah, that's a Matrix quote. This reality,
Oh,
or this zoo, this prison, this
this
reality,
stink.
or whatever you want to call it.
The smell, even if there is such a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's why you got to say goodbye horses to those five senses. That's what that, I believe that's what that song is about. Goodbye horses, I'm flying over you is about, like that there's so much more to this reality than just our five senses.
Who
You know
sings
the
that?
uh, uh Lazarus, L Lazarus or something, Lazarus. It's the Silence of the Lamb song.
Okay.
Q Lazarus, Q Lazarus, Goodbye Horses. That's that one. Um, but yeah, no, there. I definitely think there's definitely something beyond these five senses, and the whole idea of that when we do cross over, that there's that things open up to us, and like what my friend's dad was saying to his what was his wife about how that he loves her in a way that's completely different, and it's not the same that he was before, that it's like all encompassingly, like it's his entire being, like his being
Wow.
was love. And I think a lot of people describe that when having NDEs as well, that they encounter beings that were love. There's a there's a quote from a guy um, who had an NDE, and he was on a show, and I'll never forget this quote because it was something that really it stuck with me as a kid when I watched whatever this documentary was, and then later in life I heard it in a song, and it's the opening to this one song, and he goes and he talks about how he was dying, and he said goodbye to my wife, and then he died. And he said when he did die, he felt that he became peace, he became love, and he became light, and that he was this brightness, and that it was everything about him, that his existence on earth was just a very brief instant, and that he was eternity, and he was peace. And like that whole thing like really
Wow.
changed me, and it's an absolutely beautiful song too.
I
um,
There was another one. You're bringing up something that I remember in an indie. There was a guy. He was talking about his indie. He when once he died, he was and he woke up again or whatever. He was underneath the leaves. Thieves up here. Wow, everyone. He kind of floated up into the sky, then above the trees, and then through the atmosphere into the universe, and then kind of
huh.
floated away from the galaxy, then all the way back. And he was back with love, looking upon its creation, and felt complete peace. And I was like, holy shit. So it's kind of like the same thing. We've heard these things and we go, and like, here's the weird thing. When you hear this, it's innately like it's something that you innately
Just
feel and understand
yeah,
immediately. When you say that,
exactly.
everyone like goes, "Oh yes, I forgot."
Yeah, and it's something
Oh,
that like
wow, that
that's
was cool, man. I love this stuff.
that's like this if anybody's curious, the song is by Anathema, and it's called Internal Landscapes. It's an absolutely beautiful song. um but yeah, that opening, when I heard that guy talking, it's crazy too. When I heard the song, I knew exactly where it came from. I was like, I remember this guy's interview. I remember what the guy looked like. And the interview was something back in like the 90s. I was like a little kid, and this song came out in 2012.
Okay.
And but I still knew exactly what it was. And just, yeah, like what you were saying, when he said those words, like he said, it was then that I experienced what we call a near death experience. But for me, there was nothing near about it. It was there. It was a total immersion in light, brightness, warmth, peace, security. I did not have an out of body experience. I did not see my body or anyone about me. I just immediately went into this beautiful bright light. It's difficult to describe. Matter of fact, it's impossible to describe. Verbally, it cannot be expressed. It's something which becomes you and you become it. I could say that I was peace, I was love, I was the brightness. It was a part of me. And yeah, it was like,
Wow.
God, like I just when as a kid, I was like, there's something very at home about that. There's something that I understand about that. And when my friend's dad told me that too, it was that same, like, there's something comforting about that. There's something that's cozy, something familiar. I think familiar is maybe the best
Right.
word for it.
Yeah, we were all like energy just return. Like it's like we're infinite consciousness having a human experience is another one I've heard.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it just
and that
it's
we're all one experiencing reality subjectively. I've heard that from like Bill Hicks, for example. And was it
yeah.
the what was it the what was it the news that he was talking about, the news that they had the real news, the all encompassing news, that bit
Yeah.
that he used to have. You know, he was like, today a young man on acid realized that we're all just matter condensed to a slow vibration. Uh, everything is love and we are all one. Here's Tom with the weather.
Yeah,
How did you
right.
hear the news? Yeah, but it's true.
Well, that
But it's true.
that also makes me think of that telepathy tapes that I was talking about earlier.
Oh yeah,
I'm
with
sure
the,
a lot of
mhm,
people will have heard about it. It basically, for run enough people that don't know, it was a podcast that came out recently. I think it started in October of last year, and it's this lady was doing a study on nonverbal autistic people and how
mhm.
most, if not all of them, are telepathic, and that how we
Oh,
always have thought that they're just not there, that they're just, struggling to exist as people, but in reality they are disconnected from their body, and it's almost like they're astral projecting all the time, like they're always having out of body experiences. And she starts to find out that these people, some of them kids, some of them adults, independently of each other, like living in different states, don't know each other, aren't affiliated with schools or anything together, seem to talk about this place called the Hill. And the Hill is a place that they go and communicate with each other and can learn things. Like they talk about this one girl who was, I think she was like 8 or 9 years old, and she knew languages, like she knew Spanish, she knew Portuguese, she knew Russian, and she knew hieroglyphics. And when they asked her how she knew these languages, she said she learned them on the hill when she was an infant. And and
whoa.
then I think too, when they asked her like how she knew hieroglyphics or when she learned hieroglyphics, I think she said before, like before she was born or something. But but yeah, they
Yeah,
talk about
I
this
believe that.
hill, and how this hill can be access to like unlimited knowledge, and how it's like they can all communicate together, and they all share a place in consciousness, and that all of human consciousness has like this. They talk about this library, which sounds very similar to what's been described as like the Akashic records, um, where they can go in there and, like, let's say they want to learn about a book. Okay, so I want to learn everything about Moby Dick. Instead of reading a book, they maybe put on a raincoat, and they just boom, they have that knowledge. And it's some of them described as how savants come about. So how these people can be just absolutely incredible at playing a piano. Well, they learned that in this library that they got access to from the hill. And it's insanely thought
What was the
provoking.
name of this?
The telepathy tapes, and it's available where most, like, where you can get most of your podcasts. Highly recommend checking it out, and you'd absolutely love it. And I know your
I know it
listeners
would.
would
Yeah,
too. It's
yeah. Check that out,
it's
guys.
incredible. Um, but something that they
Hell,
bring up
I
a lot
was
too is the
my
sharing of
silly
human
brain though.
consciousness.
My silly brain was literally when you were talking about the hill. I said to my Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a
Oh
pail of
God.
water. Jack came down and broke his crown, and Jill came down with some more knowledge.
Oh,
I
maybe
don't
maybe
know.
that's what they
Sorry.
were talking about.
Maybe I'm a
Maybe
little
maybe
autistic. Yeah.
maybe talking about breaking his crown was opening his crown chakra, and
Wow. Wow. Look at Neil, dude, hitting Barry Bonds shots to center field. That is crazy. All right.
but yeah, they do talk about that, like life after death, and they talk about how some of their friends after they pass will actually show up on the hill, and they'll take on a completely different form, where they'll look different than what they did before, and they'll still be able to communicate, and then they either become teachers, and there's like, apparently they're spiritual guardians of this hill that kind of like, um, protect it from outside people, because they're trying to keep it pure. But yeah, it's really really interesting. Um,
That is so interesting. Like, because I think deep down we all know this place exists. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just that we don't
exactly.
that right. We like we don't have the access to it, but we know that it's there. Like I've
Or
always
we've
felt it
forgotten about
always
the access.
it's such a strange feeling to have. I don't know if you've had this feeling before, but it's I don't think it's unique either. It's like I always felt like I'm not from here. Like this
Yeah,
is my home. I love this place. I love the people. I love everything about Earth, but I'm not from here. I don't know where the hell I'm
yeah,
from, but it's not here. It always feels like like a home away from home, kind of like I'm on vacation or something. I don't know how to describe that, and I think a
Yeah,
lot of people have that.
yeah. That's also something that's brought up in a book that I've been going through. I don't know if you've heard of it, called "A Dweller of Two Planets." Have you heard of that?
No, you read a
Um,
lot, dude. I I'm
it's
catching. I was watching football, man. I don't know what to tell you.
okay. So "Dweller of Two Planets" is crazy. Um, one of the most wild books like out there. It's if you just kind of look it up on Wikipedia or read a bit about it, the way it's described is this book was written in the late 1800s, like around like 1880 something. Written by a boy who was planets, a dweller of two planets. Um, Written by a boy who was between like 13 and 17 years old, living in the late 1800s. And in the opening of the book, the boy describes that he started writing the book through stream of consciousness writing, where he just started writing down random words. And when doing that, he got into a hypnotic state, and this being started to talk to him. And this being
Oh god.
called himself Philos the Tibetan. Okay. And Philos the Tibetan claimed to be from Atlantis, and that he had lived both in Atlantis and also lived in the early 1800s. So he tells this boy, I want you to write a book for me. And so the boy just starts writing down this book. And over the course of 4 years, he writes down the book, and Philos helps him edit it and go through it and narrow it down to where they get, you know, where he gets this book ready to be published. So they they get the book copywritten, and then it gets published. It gets published multiple times. I think in 1889 and then 1905. I think, but he died. The boy died at like 33, and that's the only thing he ever wrote was this book, A Dweller of Two Planets, and it is insane.
33.
What
There we are again. There's 33
Yeah,
again too.
right, right. But the boy never takes credit for actually writing it. He always says that he just heard a voice telling him to write. So when you look up stuff about the book, they treat it as if he's schizophrenic. That this child was just schizophrenic and just creating a sci-fi. So it's like a fantasy sci-fi novel about Atlantis, and yet some of the things he talks about, Philos, when talking about Atlantis, he doesn't really talk about their technology like, ooh, ah, listen to what we have. This is the technology we have. He more so talks about living his life. Well, because I mean that happens in
I love
sci-fi.
your I love your Steve Jobs impersonation.
But I mean that happens in a lot of modern sci-fi where the author tries to show off technology. And in this book, Philos isn't trying to do that. Philos like has a time where he's like, "Well, I contacted my mother because I wanted her to live in the city with me." And he's like, "Oh, by the way, I contact her the same way that you have telegraphs. Yeah, we have that too. Only we can just hold them in our hand and they're not connected with any wires. And not only that, but we can also send like telephotos through them as well, and we can
Mm,
look at each other when we're communicating." And it's like, "Are you describing a cell phone?"
yeah,
Back in
what
the
was this
late
written?
1800s, late
Oh my
1800s.
lord.
Okay, it gets more wild than
Wow.
that, because he
Okay.
talks about how he's like, "Well, we have these carriages that drive us around town, and they're powered by electricity that comes from the road, and there's a grid in the towns that can get you around everywhere, and oh, don't worry about collisions because they travel at really high speeds, but we have lights to direct these electric carriages. And then, but when going between big cities, we don't have those lights. So it's just fast travel." And I'm like, okay, so he's describing like highways and inner city traffic and traffic lights. And then he talks about that. Um, he's like, soon your trains and locomotives won't be powered by coal, but they will soon be powered by tiny explosions. And you'll move from those tiny explosions, or we moved. I'm sorry, he's talking about the Atlanteans. We moved from tiny explosions to then harnessing electricity, and then we also learned to find the power within every atom. And he says that they use the power within the smallest molecules to power cities. And I'm like, okay, he's talking about
Oh,
nuclear power.
nuclear
and
power. Yeah.
Yeah, and he also mentions that Atlanteans use that to create massive weapons that they had to come to agreements with each other to not use because they could destroy the planet. And he
Nuclear
talks about this happening.
disarmament.
Yeah, and he talks about this happening. Philos describes living like 10,000 BC, like 12,000 years ago. And
Okay.
some of the stuff he comes up with, he talks about these flying ships. He's like, our flying ships move past the need of wings, and they're disc shaped, and they can travel at, like, the altitude doesn't matter. It's whatever you want it to be at. And he also talks about that, like, when traveling at very high altitude, that they can create an outer deck where they can go on, and the space remains pressurized in that outer deck on this disc-shaped craft. Now,
Oh my God, talking about force fields and UFOs?
yeah, and not only that, but
Oh,
you talk to any 13-year-old alive today about what issues you'd have to overcome if you were on a craft that was 30,000 feet, and I guarantee you most of them aren't going to talk about air pressure. They're not going to talk about that. But yet this kid is
wow.
like describing that they needed to pressurize the air in order for people to be safe up there. And some of the lines from this book are just written in a way that it's like a 13-year-old did not write this. And a 13-year-old did, but schizophrenia cannot explain this, And
Right.
this guy talks about living multiple lives, and that Philos, the Tibetan, lived a bunch of different lives, and that uh, the two that he wanted to write the story about were the ones from one from Atlantis and one from the early 1800s. And in the early 1800s, he goes through, like, where he goes through basically like astral projection into other realms and into the realm of the afterlife, and how the afterlife actually varies depending on people, and it's how they can create their own. And it's so insane. And to really to be written by a 13-year-old just is just not, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
And uh
Yeah.
one other
Um,
thing that really sold
if
me.
for it to like line up with today's like technology and kind of what we know about, like this, lucid dreaming has been around forever, but at the same time, it's kind of gained a lot more traction due to because of the internet and because of the ability to share and spread knowledge. Um, that is extremely fascinating. It kind of reminds me of like the what is that what's the name of that book that they can't break apart because it has the one that they can't decode. You remember the name of the book? I can't think of the top of
Oh,
my head. It's called
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I
the
don't know the
Vaya
name of it.
manuscript. The
Yeah, I
Vaya
think
manuscript or something is
something
called
like
like
that.
that or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, and it's got all like the weird writing in
Yeah,
it, and the
it's one of those other
drawings and the
books. Like,
plants and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All
But
right, it's another one of
one
those
thing that
books
it is,
that's out there. Okay, I got to look into that one too.
yeah, he talks about, Philos talks about, oh, in our time in Atlantis, he's like, most of the readers nowadays, and talking about again 1800s, probably won't believe this, but people own horses, or the only people that own horses are the wealthy people. That horses are not owned by everybody, and that wealthy people have them as status symbols. They use them for sport. They use them for entertainment, and that's something that if you told somebody in the late 1800s was the case, they would laugh at you, because horses were tools that were used, that everybody had to have them. You had to use them to survive. The fact that only wealthy would have horses would be
Right,
something that they would never wrap their minds around. And yet this one
which
13 year
would
old
be
boy is like,
now.
no, 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 they use them for sport. Exactly. And Philos talks about that more and
Right.
more. Atlanteans are reincarnating as modern day humans and remembering what they had in the past and reinventing that technology. And that
Ooh,
we are leading up to the same
ooh.
technology that the Atlanteans had. Now, what's really interesting is that he talks about going to a big city um, to start basically college, and he talks about that there was somebody there that claimed to be a prophet, and he named him Jesus, and he said that this prophet back in this is again back 12,000 years ago, um, was speaking about a doom coming, and that there was a great flood that was going to happen, and that the people needed to prepare and
My
they
God.
needed to get ready for it. And then next thing you know, what happened to Atlantis? Apparently it flooded. um, and then in
Yeah.
the when he's reincarnated in the 1800 version, he talks about Jesus as that was the what we experienced as Jesus coming 2000 years ago was actually the second coming. And that in the
Ooh.
Bible, when it talks about like the second coming and all that, and that that all the works and deeds will be fulfilled and all that, is that he describes it as, well, that's already actually happened. That's the one that we happened 2000 years ago, but that there is possible another cataclysm coming, just like what happened to Atlantis, and that we seem to be approaching the same.
Yeah. Look, you're already getting some love over there. We're trying to get Neil to start his own. You could have one, dude. I, I know you're a busy man. I know you run a machine shop. I know you got your partner and you got your cats and you got all the stuff you got to do in your life. But if you can ever find the time to squeeze in a pod, you would jump past me really quick. You have this innate ability to be able to speak well, know what you're talking about, and know what you're talking about, but about not knowing what you're talking about. According to other
Yeah.
people, but still at the same time, I'm just sitting here like the rest of the people watching you. You're such an incredible orator, like I've always told you, and I've been trying to get you for a year now. You said maybe, but it's going to
Maybe.
happen, dude. You could have so many, just the way you talk. You could just be like, here's my podcast. Neil, there it is right there. Boom. Neil, do a podcast. You would have
Thank you,
a,
man.
a line of guests trying to get on your show to talk to you about things. People who've written books, people who know about these things as well. Like when you're talking about this Tibet, I can't think of the would you say something of
Philos.
Tibet?
Yeah,
His name
Philos
was
the Tibetan. Yeah.
Philos of Tibet. You're making me think about Count Saint Germain,
Okay.
about
Yeah.
that character, him showing up many times in history, like whispering in the ears of the
Uh huh.
elite and others, where then he shows up in France, he shows up in these other places, and he's like knows these different languages, and or the people that they found on all these rocks in all the world, like on in Mayan, Aztec. They found it, I think, in Mesopotamia. There's these people with little bags, like
Yeah.
the serpent, the feathered serpents, and
Hmm.
all that, like the spreading of information. Maybe there were also Atlanteans, or also from a different time period. You are so good at this stuff. Like you just spark things in my mind that maybe people don't know about, that I've heard about. That's a little more like the stuff I know about is pretty deep, but you know what I mean. But it's still considered somewhat mainstream in the stuff that people talk about. You always seem to go a little bit higher and deeper at the same time, and it's just always incredible. Like, where do you find time to do all this? It's just what you do. I mean, do you do anything? Do you fish, Neil? What is it that you do?
Well, a lot of it comes from I'm so interested in this topic that I find anything that I can like absorb information from. And when I'm working, I always have headphones in. So I'm always listening to audiobooks or podcasts, or most of the time it's audiobooks that I go through, and I don't know. I think that my brain is a problem solving brain. It's a pattern seeking brain. I have an engineer brain. So I like to try to understand how things work, and I like to try to put things together. So by expanding my knowledge base into anything can help find ties between different subject material.
Mm.
And and it really does work. Like there's the this book, the Dweller of Two Planets, and the Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. Both those books wildly different,
Ooh,
but
ooh,
they
that book I know. I don't know all about. I haven't
Yeah,
read it. I did have it. I was going to read it, but it's now in Germany. It's Marco Allegra. His last name is Allegra, and I was going to read that one. I never got to that one, but that's an interesting book that I wanted to get my hands
it
on and
is.
sink my teeth into.
It's
Here's another
very
one too, by
interesting.
the way, guys. Check out Michael Cameron's book, "High Strangeness: A Lifetime of Alien and Paranormal Encounters." Also very interesting. You don't follow the podcast so much, Neil. And you're, like I said, you're reading other books and stuff. But
That
this gentleman here is a
that
super
one
soldier
actually
program,
sounds.
alien abductee.
Yeah, that's the super soldier one. I was about to say, I was like, I'm pretty sure that I have that saved on my Amazon list to get. Um, yeah, because that's I think it is. Let me. Oh yeah, I do. I had. Yep, I have it. I have it. I have it saved on here already.
Bam! Look at that, Michael. Look at that. There you go, buddy. That's awesome. That's really cool. How amazing is that? How amazing is that? This is a guy that I've had on multiple times. I will be having on many times in the future. He's like a friend of mine. We talk, and now you're like, oh yeah, I got that book. And I was like, oh, this is another friend of mine. So now I can connect you with the author. He's very.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh wow, damn, dude. We're at an hour and five. Anything we could talk as long as you'd like, dude. Or you got something to do, or if you want to get
I
into, we can
I
talk
got
about anything.
I
Like
got a little bit more free time. I'm actually curious though about
sure.
what your thoughts are on the topic that's, I guess, I'm sure been milked to death now, but the drones, the drone situation.
I was going to ask you the same thing. So I really was because I'd love to hear your take on it because this is your thing. This is if Neil is in a band, say Neil is Neil Diamond right now, and the song that he's singing is called Drones. This would be the song he's singing. So I know Neil has a take on it. You have to do like people always forget things happen so fast. Remember the alien thing that happened in Miami at the
Yeah,
mall?
that's just been forgotten about.
That was like 6 months ago. That you were like. So my take on it is, since you asked me, is that I think that the governments are actually I think it's a mix of two things. I think the governments have anti-gravitational technology that they're not telling us about, and I think at the very same time, that we are coming to this disclosure, and this is a meeting of sorts that is happening. It's like the aliens are like, hey, they have it too, guys. Be aware with what they're doing with it. Also mixed in, it's a distraction. It's a distraction. Something else is happening in the background that we don't know about. But I'm willing to. There we go. Here's another one saying start a podcast. Wow. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's still happening. It's still happening right now. And I
Yeah,
think
hasn't stopped.
if you follow my other friend Mark Savnik, he's saying that in 2027 through 30, it will become a reality, and we are now moving into whatever this next thing is that we're about to move into, the opening of our consciousness even farther.
I hope so.
Neil, thank you for
I
having me
definitely
on
hope
your
so.
list. Thank you, Tom and Pamela, for promoting my book. Much love. No problem, Michael. There he is
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
I'm
It says
really
thank you
really
for
excited to
having it
get
on
into it.
his list. There it is. There's the author.
That's
All
awesome.
right. Yeah. So, dude, what's your take on it, man? All right, guys, take a deep breath and sit back because Neil, this is his shit.
Okay,
Sorry,
well,
don't
yeah,
mean to put
this
you on
is
the spot.
again all speculation because we don't really know. I mean, I think the one thing everybody can agree on is that the government is lying to us about them not knowing anything. I think we can all agree on that. That's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, I mean, come on, they can get satellite imagery down to like 10 centimeters squared, like something like even that small. They can like get satellite imagery, but you can't follow one of these SUV sized drones back to where it came from in the ocean. Come on, give me a break. But
Yeah.
a couple things I found really interesting. One was the talk of the radioactive substances,
Mm.
and because I believe it was Lou Elizondo came out saying that, that the DoD released a paper in 2023 saying that they actually had these, they had like created these drones that they could use to search for dirty bombs in the Middle East, and they had a whole paper about it in 2023, and then all of a sudden now we're seeing drone swarms, and that's interesting. Um, but there was also a post on Reddit that a friend of mine sent to me, and he was like, "Hey, look at this. This is interesting." And the post was basically about it was posted on, I believe, a Sunday, and it was like Monday somebody in government is going to come out saying that the drones are looking for lost medical equipment because some of these medical equipments have um, radioactive substances in there. And he was like, "Don't believe it. It's a lie. It's a distraction. They're searching for a dirty bomb. They think there's
Right.
going to be a like an attack on U.S. soil." And so I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." And then I was at work on Tuesday, and I saw just it was on one of the work computers. I saw a thing saying that, like, "Oh, the governor from New York believes that the drones are looking for radioactive lost radioactive shipment that was supposed to come into the Jersey Shore." And I remember specifically the Reddit article said the date. They said that the drone started on December 3rd, and the article, or I mean the Reddit post was like, "We all know that's a lie. They started like deep into November." Um, and sure as shit, that article that I read said, "Oh yeah, December 3rd, there was a shipment that was lost." And I went to go back to that Reddit uh, thread, and it was deleted, and the person who had made it, that account was deleted. And I was like,
Whoa.
"That's
Whoa.
shady.
Well, we know
Don't
that
like that."
Reddit is a dumpster fire. Let's be honest with you.
Yes.
I've
Oh yes,
I've
it is.
tried to
It is.
post stuff over there. I could post like, humans are great. What are you talking about? We suck. Humans suck. What do you mean? We're the best. We're
Yeah.
awesome. We have the ability to love. So, but at the same time, sometimes there's stuff over there that you go, ooh. So
Yeah, like
that's crazy, dude. All right.
yeah, it was really interesting that it
Shaking
just
his
disappeared.
pen at you. I don't know why. Shaking his pen at you for some reason. I don't
But
know.
I don't I mean, I think that that could be a possibility. I don't think that that's my number one thing, but I thought that that was really interesting. Another
Mhm.
thing interesting is that some of these drones appear to be very normal drones with like props
Yep.
and whatnot, and then other ones seem to be these balls of light that are silent. And
Which is my what I was trying to say, what I
yeah, the
think it's
cross
both.
between the two, which I agree. I think
Yes.
that I think that there are, and I think almost like somebody knows that there are some either non-human intelligence up there or some advanced technology in the sky, and that, hey, if we flood the area with a bunch of normal technology, then everybody will just write it off as commercial drones, or everybody will write it off as there's nothing to see here, it's all just prop
Ooh,
drones. But then there's
yes.
also other ones that
Very
appear to
good, dude.
be shaped like a jet but are just hovering, and that's the stuff that doesn't make sense to me. Like those, they almost are
Not
like
really?
taking a
Come
different
on, Neil.
form, like a hologram. But uh, yeah, some of them are just. I think so. I agree with you. I think there's a level of distraction going on. I think there's a level of possible non-human intelligence going on, and I think there's advanced technology that we control going on as well. I think it's a mixture,
Mm.
and I think it is a
Yeah, but
distraction.
what's the but the distraction to what? That's the question. Like, okay, what are we trying to read
Yeah,
between the lines when we see this? Like, where is the okay? So this is continue going on now. So it is now. What do we have? The 22nd of January. So that's been 2 months. It's been
yeah.
2 months that this happens on the rate, and it's only at nighttime. What is your take on the reason for night? Like, so that they're colorful, or you think you'd see them during the
The
day too?
see, I feel like I feel like maybe the nighttime idea is that what if some of these objects that are possibly like NHI, like non-human intelligence, what if they don't necessarily show up during the day, but at nighttime they can't help but glow? Um,
Ooh,
in that case, you may have a hard time detecting them during the day, but you'd be have an easier
right.
time at night. So you send out your own drones at night, and you put your own colorful lights on your own drones to, again, distract, but you're still studying these other objects while they're up there. Um, I did hear about some sheriff that
Right.
they sent one
Makes
of their
sense.
drones up and tried to chase one, and it was like they tried to chase one of the glowing orbs, and it just launched out to sea, and they couldn't even do anything to come near it. Um, and that's
I
I
heard
think
one where they were
that's
trying to
kind of
put it up in the
interesting.
air, like they were trying to put him up in the air, and then at the same time, like all the energy got drained out immediately, which leads to like that, like like even like paranormal type situation where people have their batteries drained. That's also an interesting thing.
Yeah,
What was the
yeah.
other thing I was going to say? Oh, now I lost train of thought. I had two of them. I chose A instead of B, and I can't remember B.
But yeah, I in some of the videos I've seen are just it's like, oh, you zoomed in really close on a star and it doesn't seem like anything. And then other ones I've seen are like,
That's not what.
hey, there's a glowing ball of light and another drone goes zipping towards it and then it just launches off of it
What
or
is your take on like
explodes. It's
someone?
like,
I think Tim from yes, that too. I'm sorry. Yes, that was a very interesting one. I remember that one. It was like there was some hills and stuff around. What do you think
yeah.
about it being Project Bluebeam? What do you think about
I'm
that?
not sold on Project Bluebeam. I think that's one of those things that it gets. It's almost like it gets thrown around too much. Like anything that seems like it could be shady. It's like, oh, it's Project Bluebeam, and I don't know. I think some things could be. I think Project Bluebeam definitely could be real. The intentions behind it, I don't know. Um, I know that some people have claimed Project Bluebeam's intentions are to like fake alien invasions, which I think I think that could be the case, but I definitely think that my personal point of view is that NHI, non-human intelligence, have been here on this planet well before us, and they've been here
Yes.
during us and with us. So for me, it makes Project Bluebeam seem a little far fetched because I think our government knows that there's another intelligent life form here on this planet. So trying to fake an alien invasion to me
Hmm.
seems weird. It seems kind of illogical. But I mean, I'm not saying it
Okay.
couldn't happen. But I think the technology
Yeah.
for
So it's kind of
Project
like
Bluebeam could very well be real.
yeah,
But I have
yeah. They
heard I
did that
have heard
with the whale. With the whale crashing into the like, remember that, or like when they had Tupac on the stage, that was like
yeah, yeah,
15 years ago.
yeah.
So
But I have heard
that's
some
for
go as
entertainment.
yeah, but I have heard some go as far as saying, "Oh, Project Bluebeam has advanced so far that these holograms you can actually interact with and touch because they compress the density of air and they can make it seem like a real being is here and they're going to have them everywhere." And to me, I'm like, that's going a little far. I think
Yeah,
that
maybe. I
I
don't
think
know though. Maybe,
maybe
maybe. I mean, we don't
I'm
know,
not saying it's
Dave.
not
I mean, why
possible.
do you think they're called extraterrestrials? Extraterrestrials, extra land. Let's come on, Neil. Let's go with the I don't believe flat Earth stuff. I don't think it's real, guys. Uh, but I open to all possibilities. I'm not saying, and I don't agree with it. I don't want to spread a disinformation. But
Yeah.
extraterrestrial, extra land. Um, Operation High Jump, Admiral Berg, the accord that that is either true or not true with Eisenhower.
Eisenhower. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like like they were also saying, even old Orange Face Trump said that these things are they know they're coming out of the ocean. They know they're coming out of the ocean. They know that. What does that mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're here, even here off the coast of Campeche, here in the Gulf of Mexico. I've heard about UFOs being coming out of the ocean right in front of people. Like even the traffic stops. Like this is this stuff is getting crazy. It's getting
Yeah.
like but it's also becoming more commonplace. Like we're becoming more accepting of it. Like like if you okay in your daily life, I know you work in a company that you don't need to disclose any of that, but like in your daily routine of a life, are you able to discuss any of this with anybody?
Oh yeah. Oh, I do. I don't care if
Oh, you
they
got some
want to
cool
hear it or
friends
not.
then. All right.
No, actually, I do. Yeah. Also, talking about coming out of water, did you hear about the 4chan whistleblower? Again, it's 4chan, so it's big, thick
Okay,
grain of like Himalayan salt.
I know the name 4chan, but no, I haven't. No.
So there was supposedly a whistleblower came out on 4chan that was doing like, I was involved in crash retrieval programs, ask me anything. And he answered a bunch of questions. And the general thing was that um, he said that they were studying this large production facility that was under the ocean. And he said it moves around a lot, but generally it's near the Bermuda Triangle, also towards the Gulf of Mexico. Um, and that this production facility would have UAPs come into it, and then it would spit out new UAPs that seemed to always be specially designed for different purposes. And he claimed that they had people that could like psionically bring these crafts down, and that they would basically use their consciousness to get control over these crafts, and that they would then have teams that would go in, and they'd have one team that
CE5.
would go in. Kind of, yeah, but almost, but beyond that, like where they were actually controlling the ships. And then they'd have teams go in,
Right.
remove any biologics, and then they'd have another team go in, and his team was to remove scientific equipment. And so they'd go in and pull out equipment and then study it and try to make things work. It was an absolutely wild ride. Like the questions that and answers were insane. And I mean, it's huge grain of salt. Could very well be somebody just, playing a sci-fi game or something, but a
They're
lot of
trolling,
things,
of course.
yeah, but a lot of the things fit what we're actually seeing. And his whole thing was saying,
Okay.
just wait. He was like, just wait. In the future, you'll see that the answers that I have here are true, because they will be verified by findings and other whistleblowers coming out. And I thought that was pretty interesting, that he was like, I don't care about giving proof. And he claimed he was, or he or she, they didn't really say, um, claimed that they were dying of cancer, but that could be a red herring, to throw things off for who it actually could be,
That's
because
a
that would be
very
pretty easy, you know,
kind of,
hey, let's see who was in this
which is kind of like
program
that
who's
whole,
also dying.
what was that thing that they had? What was that white hat thing that they had? That white hat thing that they had where like all the Trump people like were like behind it, and there was this whole white hat thing, and they were all like, "Yeah, whatever that was called." It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Like, oh, it's okay. We know what's going on. We're there. The thumbs up if he uses the number 13 when he moves his hand. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
quite interesting. And
it's a wild time, man.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think that
Yeah,
I think that the one thing we can definitely agree
yeah.
on is government knows way more than way more than what they're
Then they're
telling
letting
us.
on, but we all know that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the thing, guys. If you're watching this show, like the degeneration, degeneration, like we don't like what I sometimes the words do not come off of degeneration. No, the in other words, our trust in the powers that be are now at an all-time low. And it's only because they've been objectively lying to us one way or another. We all know that. It's so obvious, which makes me see. I always look at the 3D chest of it. Okay, say for it's so obvious, like, but there's still people. I had a talk with a guy today about the crap scene, and I said it's like the biggest cover up ever, and he just goes, "No chance, no chance, no chance, no zero."
yeah,
That to me is the most. I don't know how do you even start with a person like that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, okay, possibly Tom. I have to look at it, Tom. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, Tom, but no chance. That and then I try to send them. There's a good YouTube channel or it's even on Rumble too. Dr. John Campbell, his name is. I he was the guy who's like at the beginning, hey, take it. We gotta, you know what I'm saying? And then he started looking at the data and he was like, okay, guys, wait a second. And then behind him, let's take us where the science leads us because that's important. He tries to document all this stuff. These are cited reports. I'm not saying one way or another. And he's just guys, just no chance. They have okay, the 3D chess part to get back to it. I'm getting there, but just how my brain works in reality. I think there's something wrong with me. I don't know what.
no, I'm following
But
you. I
maybe
got you.
somebody in the chat will tell me. the 3D chess of the whole thing is that it's so obvious, you know what I mean, that they don't want us to trust. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
maybe there's a possibility that that's the other way around. That it's become so blatant. You know what I mean? There's a part of me that feels that makes me not worry, but make sure that like while I'm watching what's dead in front of me, where everyone's over here on the 2 and 3, or if we're looking at a clock face, they're over here at two
Uh-huh.
and three, and they think that there's all the stuff that Fauci said was correct, and wear a mask, don't wear a mask, that's your own prerogative. I'm looking at the 12, which is you're looking at the 12. The people here who are watching this channel are at the 12. We definitely need to check our 6
Yeah.
because it's becoming too blatant for me to not go, okay, what's back here in this tunnel? There's my little tunnel back here. What
Yeah.
is there? It's too good to be true in a bad sense, but also in the next. If you know what I'm saying, maybe you can like say it better than I can. I'm sure you can. Please
I
try to
think
say what I said in normal language.
I think I can do it by example. So
Okay,
we
buddy.
all we all here are pretty aware that there's some form of non-human intelligence here. But if the government came out and said, "Hey, there's another race of beings here. Here's what they're called. Here's their leader. He's going to come talk to you," and they bring out some being and it starts talking to us, I think all of us would be like, "Wait a second, maybe not."
BS.
The fact that once they bring it out to the light, we would just be like, maybe we were wrong the whole time. Maybe we should look in a different direction because maybe it's not actually non-human intelligence. Maybe it's something else. Or if they said,
Ooh.
oh, these beings are from Alpha Centauri, or whatever, that's when we would be like, well, maybe it's not actually extraterrestrials. Maybe it's not, because now that they're coming out and saying it, maybe it wouldn't be. I think is what you're getting at, right? Like once
Right.
if whatever they say, it's probably a distraction. They're probably doing something. There's probably something
What I'm
else there
saying
that we maybe didn't get.
what I'm saying is if it's them, say if it's not non-human intelligence, let's just for example, and they're able to possess some type of technology in which they're creating these crafts that look like jets that are projected in the sky, that means that they're in control. That means they want us to think that. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then at the same
Yes.
time, it's like
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna allow these people to come into Congress and talk in front of the House committee about what like Dennis Fravor seen in the sky, and we're just going to sit there and go okay, and kind of slow roll it out. To what purpose? To what end? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It bothers me because it's like, why would they allow that? So well, part of me thinks that they want to keep control by disseminating either the information slowly or to deny it altogether. Hello, Justin. Hello, Justin White. That's a new person. I don't know who you are. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I'm always like to see happy new faces. But another part of me, it's very confusing. But maybe it's meant to be confusing. Maybe it's along the lines where it's a distraction, where these intelligences are here, or maybe it's something like it's like they're holding their hand like a sucker punch. I don't. It's very confusing, but I'm trying to make sure that I keep my eyes open in
Yeah.
all possibilities. I don't close it on blue beam. I don't close it on government control. I don't
Yeah.
close it
Yeah.
on it's an intelligence from outer space as well as here. It's kind of all over the map, and we should be prepared for all of it. And that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. I hate to ever say anything
I'm a
is
lost
not
for
or
words.
anything is definite. Um, because really we don't know. I mean, there's really no way to know. And I
Mm.
think that's one thing too that I dislike. I dislike when people claim that they know something for sure. It's like, but we really don't. I mean, could it be? Yeah. Um, but I mean, could they be? Could this all be a computer simulation? Could this be like a weird game of The Sims that got
Oh,
AI injected into it? And so here we are, just somebody was playing Sims 12 and they put AI in it, and here we are now. We're like, oh, and they're like, it's some child like clicking, like, yeah. Or another one that I thought was kind of interesting. another idea is that this is not necessarily a simulation universe, but one that's in a liminal space. So
Mm.
let's say that there's a being, a group of beings that have so advanced technology that they've actually got dumber. They actually got less intelligent because they relied on technology. So then what
Oh,
they
that's
ended
a
up
Joe
having to
Rogan bit.
do so then what they had to do is, let's say they had to create a universe that could exist in some liminal space, and they could adjust the time that universe goes. So like, let's say they need new technology. So they create our existence, and they plant us here to be a race of beings that just wants to build technology, advance technology. So we do that. And when we start getting to a certain point in our technology, they check in on us. Let's say on their lunch break, they start the morning, they create our civilization. Thousands of years go by, millions of years, billions of years go by, but to them it's lunch break. So they check on us and they're like, they're kind of going in the wrong direction. Let's throw little things at them. So they throw like some UFOs at us and they dump them, they make them crash, and they're like,
Yeah,
maybe
or
this
and they or they
technology.
or they or they yeah, or they take one to shoot down the nuclear weapon goes up in the sky and they take and shoot it down.
Yeah.
Not that way, dummies.
Yeah,
This
no,
way.
no, no. We don't want
Well,
that.
that's
We don't want that. We know about that. Let's go this direction.
mm-mm,
And so then
mm.
they close the door
Like
and
they're
then they
playing
check
whack a
again.
mole.
Yeah, they check again at 3:30 in their afternoon, and they open, and now we're 10,000 years advanced from now. And they see some of our technology and they're like, "Oh, this actually looks good. I'm gonna pluck this, and we're gonna pluck that." And then they close the door again and come back to work the next day, only to see what advanced technology we made then. And then when we finally do make some technologies they like, they steal it from us, and then they wipe us out and start a new simulation over again. But for us, we've now lived here for, however many
Yeah.
thousands, millions,
Or
billions of years.
I'll take Doug Hope's idea. I'll take Doug Stanhope's idea. He said that this is a intergalactic truck stop, like where you're driving through the universe and you're with your friends. You're like, hey, Glark is like, he's about to get married. We should have a party. Hey, let's go to Earth, man. Let's go have sex with some beings and not have a condom on it and just go down and bang a monkey. And the next thing you know, we come out and we're talking on this podcast. Who it's that's the cool thing, guys, is our imagination is only limited by our ability to think that we can't.
Yeah.
That's the coolness of being what we are. And what do you ascribe to, for example? I always want to ask you, I like to ask you deeper philosophical questions. I love what you talk about. You are amazing at what you do. I always wanted to know, like, damn, now I get crossfire. Like, when it comes to like the scientific point of view that we are just an accident upon a rock floating through infinity, like where they want to like not make us connect to the other, that thing. What do you think that is? Why do they do that?
I think it's probably fear of the unknown. Fear of something you can't study, fear of something that if you can't tangibly recreate, a system, then you
Can't
can't have a
quantify
solid
it.
experiment. Yeah, if you can't quantify it, you can't experiment with it, then you can't know for sure. And I think that's it's just a way of saying ignorance is bliss. So instead of saying, well, it could be any one of these
Mm.
things, they're just going to label it as it was random chance. I honestly think it goes back where you actually can connect science with spirituality, going back to the creation of man, where science states that, oh, you need all these proteins and aminos to be just right and have everything lined up just right, and then maybe a flash of lightning, and then life gets created. um, I think that's not something they've been able to replicate. That's never been something that's been able to be reproduced. And if that was the case, we can reproduce an experiment like that. So then we should have been able to create life from that, but we haven't. One thing that we have seen,
Right.
which goes back to the tether incident, the STS-75, which happened, what was that, 80s, 90s, something like that, where they made that huge tether, and it ended up snapping. And when that tether snapped, There, have you ever heard of this? This happened. This is a NASA experiment.
No,
Okay, you
no.
gotta look it up. It's one of the craziest videos. Like they took a video of this. This tether was like 3/4 of a mile long or something, or maybe even longer than that. I don't know the off the top of my head. Don't know the exact numbers, but it was this huge thing. They were trying to do like electrical experiments with it, and it ends up snapping. And when it snapped, and even before it snapped, there were all these like glowing orbs flying around, and like these weird crescent shaped like objects that were like lighting up, and they were changing direction. Like some were moving slow and then would stop and then like would accelerate away. Um, all these
What's a
weird.
tether? What is a tether?
It was, oh man, like let me hold on. Let me pull it up real quick.
No, I'm sorry, I just don't know what the word. I know tether means you connect two things together, kind of like with a line,
Yeah, and this was
but I
this was
don't
a
know
giant.
how exactly you mean.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So this happened. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 12.5 miles long, or 20 kilometers long, and they were basically trying to drag this like I don't even know how to describe it because it's hard to tell what it is from. It's basically like a some type of tube, like a big fluorescent tube that they were trying to create plasma in, and they were trying to do it, bring it across like the Earth's ionosphere, to get like a reaction from the magnetic field. And I'm trying to find
Ooh,
some pictures of it. But it was basically just this huge tube, 12-mile long tube that they set up, and it ended up they put like a ton of power to it, like a couple thousand volts to it. And when it ended up breaking, it basically created a bunch of plasmoids, like a bunch of plasma. And the plasma seemed to move
kind of like ball lightning, kind of.
intelligently. Yes, and it moved intelligently. Like it was seen that some plasma
Whoa,
objects were consuming other ones in like an aggressive manner to try to stay alive a little bit longer, and that
whoa!
they were moving all around. I mean, if you go to YouTube, you can look up the NASA tether incident and watch this like video from it, and it's just crazy. All the things flying around. It's all these little plasmoids flying around, but it's thought that we actually did create life. We created a plasma life there um, during that, and these plasma objects lived for a short period of time, but they showed intelligent movement. And I think going back to what I was saying about creating life on Earth, a lot of spiritual stories, like even like the Bible and others and Christianity stuff, talk about beings of light, like angels of light. Um, Even the New Age stuff talks about that humans are created via light, and if you take that as like intelligent plasma, if that
Yes,
intelligent plasma came in contact with these physical proteins and amino acids and stuff that was bubbling in the ocean, it could have created life. And in that
it's a
case, that was
spark.
a conscious, yeah, a conscious creation from a conscious
Yeah,
being creating more consciousness on the planet. So no, I don't think it's random chance. I think it was already out there. And I think that once we learn to view
badass, dude.
life, I think once we learn to view life as something that can happen in a form that we can't understand, that we'll start to see more life in the universe. Like that, when we come to terms with that, plasma can be alive, and that it can be conscious and it can make decisions, that we'll probably find maybe even things like solar coronal ejections may even be alive. Like they may even create life
Wow.
with like coming in contact with other gases and creating plasma when they hit planets. And maybe that's causing some life to just appear in the universe. That, I mean, I don't know. It's something that it's really interesting.
Yeah, you.
There was a
It
there's a
tickles
paper
your.
out there.
It tickles your. Yeah, dude. You are, dude. You are amazing, and I don't want you to underplay that. You are you are incredible, dude. I
I
swear.
appreciate the kind words.
Um, man, I appreciate you coming on here so much, and like you, every time you go, have you read this? Have you seen this? Dude, I get like I must get. I swear, I get like 5 to 6 videos sent to me today. You know, Bigfoot, a Dogman video. hey, have you seen this documentary? And I just can't. I literally can't, guys. I love each and every one of you. It could be Darren sending me something. It could be, it could be even my close friends on the podcast like Magical. I live in USA, Maryland. Yeah. Oh, I know. Hey, JD, what's up, dude? I know who that is now. Mad Toker. All right, I know who you are, but and yeah, it's you're just you I think if you believe in callings or not, you should do something with what you have accumulated. At least the way you think about things needs to, but it's not what to think. You're talking about the way to think, and I
Yeah.
think that is what that I enjoy talking with you so much about. It's never dull. I'm basically playing catch up the whole time, trying to be cheeky and funny. Hello, and another person from Twitch. It's my second Twitch. Hi.
Nice.
I don't know what this is, but I'll pop it up there. I don't know who it is. Somebody's just trying to bump their channel on here. I don't know how that works, but anyway, I'm moving over there. It's never dull. If you ever need any help of any sort, like whatever you want to, whatever it is, I will definitely make sure I set aside time to help you. You need to do this, dude. And
Yeah, I
and I mean
appreciate
that in the most like friendly way, and I also mean it in a way of and also like that tough love way.
that.
You people need to hear what you're talking about. Really, really.
Yeah.
And Magical, get a hold of Neil because you would have a great time talking with him. He's a green witch, a self-professed green witch, and he talks.
Yeah.
He gets me too, and I'm like, what are we talking about? And he's a great orator too. He's very slow and deliberate. A lot of love when he talks. And I would love that if you ever had a chance to go on his show, and I will connect you with him if possible, because you need to get out there more. I know you're a busy man, like we all are, but I really mean that, dude. I appreciate so very much every time you get to come on the show. Like you said, I can't now. I do it in 2 months. And thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. Just talking with you is so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you too. It's definitely always fun, and it's fun to, let your brain wander and like think and try to
Ye-
put things together and piece together different parts and just let it go. It's always fun.
Basically, I'm trying to create a space here, dude. Yeah, dude. I'm trying to create a space here that everyone gets to come on and talk about what it is that they want to talk about. The time they've seen a Bigfoot in the forest, the time they've seen a glowing orb, the time I had a guy on. It's coming up, guys. The time the guy took a salvia trip, dude. Remember you told me about your salvia trip?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where there was you. That's right.
Yeah.
I told him
My
about
whole
this.
life.
This dude took one. Yeah, this dude took 100x hit. Okay. Okay. Right. A big one. He was like, okay, I'm Mormon. I can't take this stuff because I can't take weed. I can't do this. He took 100x hit in Alaska with a friend of his who was a ranger in the military, so he didn't want to get his stuff. Bought the bong. I don't know. This is what you get. He's at a head shop. He thought it was called Spice. Woke up in somewhere in Texas, about an hour east of Dallas, in the water. Someone grabbed him out of the water and lived an 8-year existence as himself, working at an apple farm. And after 4 years in, he became a little bit like nuicidal. Wording I got to use here, because it's one thing of having a family and then losing him, but it's one thing to say like my family never existed. So he started accepting it. One day he's walking through the field, had a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and woke up back in Alaska, and only 45 seconds had elapsed. So you had an experience like that too.
Yep.
I
know exactly what he went through.
This is what this podcast is. Yeah, dude. You had. Oh yeah. You were like, wait. My line that always sticks in my head that you said to me is like, wait a minute. We smoked some shit.
Yeah, we just smoked some shit.
Smoked some shit. And next thing you know, you're like, oh man, and you still like have love for your partner that you had where you were catching animals with the fire and now you know what frost and snow looks like. Yeah, and dude, this is what I want to create here: is the ability for people to come on and I've had religious people on. I've had people who had CE5 contacts and
Yeah.
witches and channelers of the dead. It's just what I love to do. And once again, dude, people are just happy that you came and look at Pamela, my great mom, the best in the business. So thanks for coming on. Please come
Yeah,
back
thanks for having
again.
me.
And Neil, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. Had a great time.
All right, buddy. Okay, I'll see you around. We'll keep in touch, dude. Let's keep chatting. You know how it goes.
Absolutely.
And say hi to Steve for me, buddy.
I will. I absolutely will.
All right, buddy. Later. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. That is like I said, he's just an open book, man, of consciousness and exploration. And he's incredible. He's incredible. Thank you also very much for coming on. It's an extra long episode, hour 45. But when you have Neil Ballas on your show, you need to talk to Neil Ballas. And once again, guys, like, subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up, hit that hit the bell notification. Go ahead and download. You can go to Spreaker and download all my podcasts so you can listen to them on the road. You're delivering your Pepsi Cola products, then you can have something interesting to listen to, I hope. And remember, guys, we are the eye, we are aware. I love you all. Have a good night.